Thank you for joining us with the news on QTV. My name is Diana Sumbwe. We take a look at stories making headlines. Zambia's total public debt currently stands at approximately 14.56 billion United States dollars, representing 53.1% of gross domestic product (GDP). The annual rate of inflation for the month of August 2018 has increased to 8.1% from the 7.8% recorded in July this year. And now the news in detail. Zambia's total public debt currently stands at approximately 14.56 billion United States dollars, representing 53.1% of gross domestic product (GDP). Against a threshold of 56% of this amount, external debt stood at 9.37 billion United States dollars, while domestic debt amounted to 5.87 billion United States dollars as at the end of June this year. Minister of Finance Head of Public Relations Chileshe Kandeta says arrears stood at 1.39 billion United States dollars as at the end of the same month. In a statement obtained by Q News, Mr. Kandeta notes that the total public debt and arrears is therefore 15.95 billion United States dollars. Mr. Kandeta states that normal GDP in 2018 is projected at 27.4 billion United States dollars. The annual rate of inflation for the month of August 2018 has increased by 0.3% from 7.8% recorded in July this year to 8.1%. This means that on average, prices of goods and services increased by 8.1% between August 2017 and August 2018. Central Statistical Office CSO Acting Director Goodson Sienga says the increase in inflation was mainly influenced by a rise in prices of both food and non-food items. Speaking during the monthly bulletin media briefing, Mr. Sienga listed breakfast mealie meal, cassava meal, purchase of vehicles, and charcoal as some of the food and non-food items. Mr. Sienga says the annual non-food inflation rate for August 2018 was recorded at 8.3% compared to 8.1% recorded in July 2018, which is an increase of 0.2 percentage points. He says the increase in the annual food inflation rate is mainly as a result of price changes of breakfast mealie meal and cassava meal.
The year-on-year inflation rate as measured by the all-item consumer price index for the month of August 2018 increased to 8.1% from 7.1% recorded in July 2018. This means that on average, prices of goods and services increased by 8.1% between August 2017 and August 2018. The increase in the annual rate of inflation is mainly attributed to the price movement of both food and non-food items, such as breakfast mealie meal, cassava meal, vehicles, and also charcoal.
Meanwhile, Mr. Sienga has revealed that Zambia's trade deficit decreased by 48.8% from 1,620 million kwacha recorded in June 2018 to 829 million kwacha in July 2018. He says this trade deficit means that the country imported more than it exported in normal terms. Mr. Sienga says imports decreased by 12.9% from 10,190.3 million kwacha in June 2018 to 8,877.4 million kwacha in July 2018.
As a country, we recorded another trade deficit, but we've noticed that the deficit has reduced between the month of June and July 2018. Zambia trade deficit decreased by 48.8% from 1.6 billion recorded in June 2018 to 829 million recorded in July 2018.
The Civil Society Constitution Agenda CISCA says it is in support of calls that the church should spearhead the national dialogue process. Addressing a media briefing in Lusaka, CISCA Vice Chairperson Judith Mulenga said CISCA will not be part of the group of citizens frustrating the efforts of the church based on political formation. Ms. Mulenga says her consortium will instead continue to support the effort of the church in the national dialogue process. She says the controversy that has arisen on who should lead the dialogue process between the church and the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, ZCID, is unprogressive and must be resolved immediately. Ms. Mulenga states that it is hypocritical in a Christian nation to demonize the church and describe it as lacking moral standing to mediate in the political crisis that is damaging the country. Meanwhile, Ms. Mulenga says CISCA is deeply concerned by the escalating utterances of tribalism remarks by those associated with the ruling party.
Those who are against the church taking lead must realize the importance of the church's role in such matters from the history of our country. We urge all Zambians to rally behind the church-led national dialogue. CISCA will not be part of the group of citizens to frustrate the efforts of the church based on political affiliation, but will continue to support church efforts given that the church was the pioneer of the Say dialogue at a time when it was very unfashionable to talk about national dialogue, and when ruling elites and their sympathizers denied the existence of political tension and crisis in this country. In conclusion, we call on the Minister of Justice to release the refined draft constitution to the public for our scrutiny of the document. We cannot continue to pretend that the draft is in the hands of the ministry when the document has not been shared with any stakeholders.
And CISCA Chairperson Bishop John Mambo has noted the need for members of the public, politicians and civil society organizations to tone down on the words they are using to comment on the issue of national dialogue.
Bishop Mpundu, you had started calling him names. Because when Mambo talks as UPND, we have to be strong. When the other one talks is PF, as long as there is power, associated, they started calling them, even within the Catholic setup. But I think he was strong enough, to weather the entire storm. Later on, they simply say to own this process, we need an independent person. That was now the Commonwealth, because you see, they had already agreed. Both the ruling party, through His Excellency, as well as the Commonwealth. Later on, you changed. That was the Minister of Justice. We can do it on our own. It is true we can do it on our own. We have not refused. I was there in 1991. The one who initiated the process of the 1991 at the cathedral was the Student Union of UNZA, under the theme Bind Us Together. But we told them you cannot bring Kaunda, Chilua, and others together. You are too young. Yes, you be doctors and whatever, but it don't work. That's how we got to that process. And the Bishop, the late Stephen Mumba, buried the Cathedral of the Holy Cross in front of the cathedral, headed that. Kaunda came to cathedral, he's still there. We simply say, you cannot chair, Your Excellency, and he was very powerful. You cannot chair. That process was chaired by the church to the end. Mind you, Parliament was running. But the initial amendment for the peaceful transition, very good election of 1991, was as a result of the church mediating. And Kaunda had to cut his years, 3 years, and all that. So we keep on saying, history has it that the church has been strong all along. Bishop
The church has been advised against engaging the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, ZCID, in the media on the issue of a national dialogue. The ruling Patriotic Front is urging the church to instead provide leadership and counsel by engaging the ZCID behind closed doors. Patriotic Front Deputy Media Director Antonio Mwanza says his party does not support the exchange of statements that the church and the ZCID have been making in the media. Mr. Mwanza says the ruling Patriotic Front is concerned that if these exchanges continue, the entire national dialogue process will be politicized. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Mwanza states that this is why the church, as a neutral arbiter, should find time to meet with the ZCID. Mr. Mwanza says on its part, the ruling Patriotic Front is resolved that the ZCID should be a facilitator of the dialogue process, while the role of chairing it should be left to the church.
The church must engage ZCID and not to engage the media. The church has been given a very bigger responsibility to chair the dialogue. And the church, as a neutral arbiter, must not engage ZCID through the media. Let them find time to sit with ZCID constituents and engage behind the cameras. We don't want press statements and counter press statements. I think it is important that the church provides leadership and counsel by meeting ZCID away from cameras, because we risk playing to the gallery and politicizing the entire process. For us as a party, we respect and honor the role that the church plays, and we want them to chair the dialogue process. But in terms of leading and facilitation, it has been made very clear by the Central Committee, by the President, by the Secretary General, that the church must chair but not lead, not facilitate. So if the church truly wants to be productive and wants to help, let them engage ZCID away from cameras. The church.
And Opposition Economic and Equity Party EEP leader Chilufya Tayali has urged the church to realize that it cannot exclude the ZCID in the issue of the national dialogue process. Mr. Tayali has told Q News in a separate interview that this is because the ZCID in fact represents all political parties they want to bring together in the dialogue process. He says the church must also realize that it is actually political parties with representation in parliament that will implement any constitutional reforms that will be resolved in the dialogue process. Mr. Tayali says this means that the national dialogue process is not about reconciling political parties, but about constitutional reforms.
It is about putting reforms in some of the institutions such as the police. Reforms. Not shaking hands, not praying for them, reforms. So this is the difference. What the church have been doing is reconciling people, not instituting amendment to the constitution, not bringing about reforms in the institutions, not bring about reforms in the voting, in the electoral conduct. These are the issues that are concerned. So it is bigger than what they have been doing. If it is about reconciling, they can reconcile Hakainde Hichilema na Edgar Lungu. They can do that. But this dialogue is about the constitution. It is about...
The Nevers Mumba-led MMD has formally written to the Registrar of Societies to change the records of the former ruling party following the April Supreme Court ruling. Spokesperson Kefas Mukuka says his party is currently waiting for a response from the registrar. Dr. Mukuka states that in view of this, it was a grave mistake for the Zambia Center for Interparty Dialogue, ZCID, to exclude his party from the national dialogue process. In a walk-in interview with QTV News, Dr. Mukuka states that his party's side is the MMD that should have been recognized and invited by the ZCID. Dr. Mukuka says it is, however, not too late for the ZCID to invite his party to be part of the national dialogue process. He states that this is notwithstanding the fact that the position of his party is that the church should be the one that leads the process.
So our position as MMD, we support all cause to have the church lead the pending national dialogue in Zambia. That is the mandate of the church, and no one can take that away from the church. Henceforth, we ask our brothers and sisters in the ZCID to humble themselves and allow the church to lead the pending national dialogue. Why we say that? Because each time the church have spoken, it is that they have spoken from a sacred platform, whose platform cannot be questioned, whose integrity is above board. We cannot suspect the church, because when we look at what has been happening globally, they've been instrumental. Not only that, they've delivered to the expectations of the masses.
Health Minister Chitalu Chilufya says political commitment at the highest level is the key to successful implementation of the global strategy for cholera prevention and control. And Dr. Chitalu has supported the adoption of the regional framework for the implementation of the global strategy for cholera prevention and control 2018 to 2030. Dr. Chilufya says political commitment should be topmost and the first issue to be addressed if the framework has to be successfully implemented. He stated that political commitment with the support of President Edgar Lungu is a game changer in containing the cholera that broke out in October 2017 and declared over in June 2018. He emphasized that premium should be placed on coordination as it summons coherence amongst sector players. Dr. Chilufya said this in a statement on the regional frameworks for the implementation of the Global Strategy for Cholera Prevention and Control 2018 to 2030 at the ongoing 68th session of the World Health Organization Regional Committee for Africa in Dakar, Senegal.
We want to propose that the issue of political commitment be highlighted. We agree in totality with all the 20 interventions that have been put there, and we just want to emphasize that all the issues and challenges, the issue of political commitment be highlighted. It was a game changer in our outbreak. Political commitment at the summit does ease execution of decisions, because invocation of the Public Health Act requiring more resources and utilization of certain emergency measures requires that support at that level. And the Zambian support of the presidency and cabinet was critical in control of cholera. In terms of coordination, we also think that that must be highlighted. Premium must be placed on coordination. Health in all approach, yes, summons everyone to coordinate, but there must be that coherence and there must be emphasis on coordination among the sectors. Amongst the milestones, we have noticed the importance of a focal person, but we believe that we should begin by coming up with a cholera control leadership program to facilitate the actualization of the regional framework. Lastly, Chairperson, there is no substitute to ensuring that there is universal access to clean and safe water.
Exim Bank of India Chief General Manager Nadeem Panjaitan has assured Zambia that he will expedite the process of ensuring that Jaguar Overseas Limited starts its operations as soon as possible. This is with respect to the completion of pending works on the 650 health posts in Muchinga, Northern, Luapula and Northwestern provinces. And Mr. Nadeem says Exim Bank has now classified the 650 health posts project as a priority so that review meetings start taking place every month between India and Zambia. He says the new contractor has exactly 1 year to complete the project from the date of contract effectiveness. Mr. Nadeem said this when Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary for Administration, Dr. Kennedy Malama, paid a courtesy call on him in New Delhi. And Dr. Malama said the 650 health posts project financed by India at a cost of $50 million United States line of credit is a signature project in India-Zambia relations. Dr. Malama says that there is, however, need for the effective collaboration between the two governments in the efficient implementation of the project.
On our side, the Zambian government through Ministry of Health, there's that counterpart funding in this which we've committed ourselves. Again, we can assure you that all efforts have been made to ensure that we adequately provide for that, which is about 2.4 million US dollars. We adequately provide for that, and as the contract will stipulate, we ensure that it's made available and all the needful is done. That's the commitment we bring as the government of Zambia through the Ministry of Health.
So there is no power on earth that cannot give that. So you can consider it as that, and it is only a process now. So this is how we will go. Your fourth thing was about the balance available under the line and to use that amounts for transportation.
So the Indian government's help in coming in to help the Zambian government with the erection of this 650 hospital is a very much appreciated move, and we really give accolades to the Indian government.
On our side,
The Drug Enforcement Commission DEC in Lusaka has arrested one person for various offences relating to theft of over 450 kwacha. The suspect is identified as Daniel Joseph Banda, 30, a banker of house number C6, Handsworth Court, and has been charged with theft by servant, money laundering and forgery contrary to the laws of Zambia. Particulars are that the suspect jointly and whilst acting together with other persons unknown, but between 1st January 2016 and 31st December 2017, did steal 452,794 kwacha 72 ngwe by fraudulently drawing money on several accounts of unsuspecting customers using ATM cards issued to himself while fraudulently generating withdrawal slips. The suspect further forged bank documents purporting to have transferred money from a customer account into the bank's investment account when in fact not, an act which resulted in money laundering. The suspect has since been released on police bond and is expected to appear in court soon. And the Commission's Anti-Money Laundering Investigations Unit in Northern Province has arrested Bizek Mbewe, 31, an information technology programmer of Mlenga Hills in Kasama District, and Boyd Banda, 52, a senior systems analyst, also of Kasama District, for forgery, contrary to the laws of Zambia. The duo jointly and whilst acting together with other persons unknown on dates unknown but between 1st July 2017 and 31st January 2018 did forge various receipts which were later issued to customers of Kasama Municipal Council amounting to a total of 19,298 kwacha 30 ngwe. The suspects are expected to appear in court soon. This is according to a statement made available to QTV News by DEC Public Relations Officer Teresa Katongo. Government has assured the nation that it has not defaulted on any constitutional requirement regarding public debt contraction. Ministry of Finance Assistant Director, Domestic Debt Investment and Debt Management, Mwila Zulu, says government does not have any such intentions. Mrs. Zulu said this during the Zambia Institute for Policy Analysis and Research, ZIPAR Town Hall mid-year budget analysis held in Lusaka. We have more in this report.
The financing has been mainly utilized to finance development of infrastructure, particularly in the transport, energy, education, health sectors, just to mention a few. These are, after all economic and social benefits arising from the borrowing that government has undertaken. Let me turn to the critical indicators of sustainable debt. Debt sustainability demonstrates the ability by a country to carry its debt, and this is measured against the country's gross domestic product and the capacity to service its debt obligations, which is measured against the country's revenues. Prudent debt management calls for regular checks on our debt to ascertain whether we are on the sustainability track or we are becoming unsustainable. The
Government has announced that it will present the insurance bill, whose preparations have reached an advanced stage, before Parliament in the next session of Parliament in February 2019. Ministry of Finance Permanent Secretary Makulu Chikubi says government has had a back and forth on what should be contained in the bill. Mr. Chikuba says the bill cannot be presented in the current session as it has already passed the legislative stage. He states that government is committed to putting up policies that will help address the challenges in the insurance sector and ensure for growth in the uptake of insurance services. Mr. Chikuba said this when he officiated at the launch of the 14th International Microinsurance Conference to be held from 6th to 8th of November under the theme Inclusive Insurance for Emerging Markets, which is expected to be attended by over 450 delegates from across the globe.
I wish to note that government has started taking some of the measures that are required to try and correct for this, for some of these challenges that we are facing. I do hear the industry when they say that the insurance bill has been delayed, and yes, government has been working on the bill. We've had a back and forth on what should get into the bill. We need to understand that the law that governs insurance has not been looked at for a while, particularly because a lot of effort had not been put in the area of insurance. However, this work has progressed. The bill, I think, largely is ready. However, the next legislative session that we have is in February, and the bill will certainly make it in the February session. I was just assuring my colleagues, so we can work at them. So again, we would want just to mention that with the hosting of the conference in November, we also see it as an opportunity to ensure that the bill that will be getting into the February session next year is in line with international practice. So it gives us also an opportunity to try and learn what others have done, where we are not doing it correctly, particularly as it involves microinsurance. So again, whatever will come out of the conference in November, we still have December and January to try and incorporate whatever will come out of there. So it's a great opportunity that we have.
And Pensions and Insurance Authority Registrar Martin Liwinga urged government to expedite the process of tabling the insurance bill before Parliament, expressing concern over the low insurance growth in the country. Minister of Gender Elizabeth Piri has called on Zambians to ensure that children's rights are not only protected but also ensure that they explore their full potential. Speaking at the launch of the World Vision It Takes Zambia to End Child Marriage campaigns, Ms. Piri said her ministry, on its part, has been working closely with various partners to bring about meaningful change in the lives of the girl child. Ms. Piri says that child marriages expose the girl child to diseases such as cervical cancer, maternal mortality, sexually transmitted infections such as HIV, and other related risks. She states that her ministry, with its partners, conducted assessments in Katete and Senanga, where efforts to reduce children vulnerability and supported by the Office of the District Administration. And speaking at the same event, World Vision Zambia National Director John Hayes said his organization has recommitted itself to supporting efforts by the government to end child marriage in Zambia. In a speech read for him by World Vision Communications and Advocacy Director Pamela Chama, Mr. Hayes says his organization's activities to end child marriages will be implemented in over 40 districts. The Opposition United Party for National Development, UPND, has bemoaned the rate at which government is giving out land to foreigners. UPND Chairperson for Rural Reconstruction and Development, Mono Mapani, is concerned that land is being grabbed by foreigners or cadres, a situation he described as disadvantaging ordinary Zambians. In an interview with Q News, Mr. Mapani noted that due to the growing trend of land grabbing, women and youths in Zambia are unable to access land. He says only a few privileged or politically connected individuals are managing to access land, while the underprivileged continue being deprived of land rights. Mr. Mapani is worried that government continues turning a blind eye on this matter, a development contributing to increasing to housing poverty, income inequality and unemployment. Mr. Mapani has, however, called on Lands and Natural Resources Minister Jean Kapata to intervene as all citizens deserve equal access to land ownership.
But at the rate the Chinese are allowed to get land from the people of Zambia is very alarming. And the blind eye that has been put by the executive should come to an end forthwith. This land belongs to the Zambian people, and Zambians have got no any other country to rush to apart from this country. So what we expect is to see the Minister of Lands, Madam Kapata, please get seated on your chair and do the right thing. People have suffered. People have suffered. Those who are privileged have taken advantage of the already oppressed people economically by getting to lands, Minister of Lands, taking surveyors to whatever piece of land they feel like, provided they can pay. And those who have been living on those pieces of land are left with that end piece of land. Now the question is that where are you going to push the Zambians to? And this is an issue which should be taken seriously. We expect the executive, the legislature, and the chiefs to sit together and find a lasting solution to this. There is no way we can be respecting animals in place of people. The question is that where are we going to push the people to? How come these days in Zambia, animals are becoming more important than the people? Please, the Patriotic Front executive, look into this, otherwise citizens are not happy and we are not going to allow it. We are not going to allow it. These people have got nowhere to go. This is their country, and you saw to defend and protect the Constitution. And the owners of the Constitution are the governed, the people of Zambia. And you deserve, and you are supposed to respect them. They deserve respect from you. But at the
Zambia Council for Social Development, ZCSD, has expressed concern at the levels at which operations of the civil society in Zambia are being stifled. ZCSD Acting Executive Director Pasco Bwalia says his organization feels that the CSOs in Zambia are being restricted by government due to punitive laws like the NGO Act. Mr. Bwalia cites the proposed cyber laws as one of those restricting the operations of CSOs to operate, especially that most of them use social media to publicize their activities. He says the NGO Act is a hindrance to civil society operations in Zambia. Former Patriotic Front Lusaka Province Youth Chairperson Kennedy Kamba has promised to foster unity in the party once elected as Lusaka Provincial Chairperson in the forthcoming intra-party elections. Mr. Kamba says fostering unity in the Patriotic Front remains top on his intra-party agenda. Mr. Kamba says unity of purpose will result in the Patriotic Front conducting party mobilization as a formidable political force before, during, and after the Thursday, 12th August 2021 presidential, parliamentary, and general election. Mr. Kamba told Q News in an interview that he will also work at improving the relationship between party structures and government officials once elected. Mr. Kamba equally pledged to empower youth in the province in an effort to spur economic development.
And the other thing is, of course, is to empower our women and the youths to make sure that they also be empowered in one way or the other, be it employment or financial support or business support. That is what we are going to look at, so that they can sustain their living, especially in the rural parts of Lusaka. We are happy that today in Rwangwa, when we formed government, we had only one council out of 15, but today the former executive provincial committee, we have worked to see to it that Rwangwa today has got 14 out of 15 ward councillors. We've got a council chairperson there, and there's development which is taking place. This is why people, they believe in my leadership, because it was under our leadership, my leadership as youth chairperson for Lusaka. I've been youth chairman for Lusaka since 2009, and we ushered in the PF government in 2011 through His Excellency Michael Chufesa Tameso, rest in peace. We ushered in after the transition when the president died His Excellency Edgar Chagwa Lungu in 2015 and in 2016. So those are just some of the achievements. We took over the government of Rupia Banda and William Banda and make sure that we form government. It's a big, for me it is just that it is a big achievement, because when you remember those days, very few people were coming out and started denouncing the MMD government. They were afraid of the Kadarism of William Banda, the brutality of William Banda, but we raised our voices so that people they can hear us, so that people they can realize that the PF government meant well. So it is one of the biggest achievements I can ever point at. And the other thing.
To end the news, we take a look at the stories making headlines once again. Zambia's total public debt currently stands at approximately 14.56 billion United States dollars, representing 53.1% of gross domestic product (GDP). And the annual rate of inflation for the month of August 2018 has increased to 8.1% from the 7.8% recorded in July this year. On that note, we come to the end of the news.